This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everyone, to the latest episode of Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm the Doc, John Macaroon. This week, both Michigan and Michigan State, are they on a collision course for the greatest college basketball game locally ever? We'll talk about it. Is March Madness fading? Did the weekend's events make Doc and Jock want to watch the tournament more? Or did the games that lack competitiveness kind of turn us off? We'll talk all about it. And then right now, when you guys are listening, the Detroit Tigers are going to start their season. Really, it's going to be interesting to talk about the upcoming season for the Tigers as they face off against the Dodgers on the road. But some things are happening around Comerica Park. Some things are happening with the team. Massive injury news. Has that dampened our feelings regarding the expectations? We're going to talk about the season breakdown. And here today is my guy, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Cuz, gotta ask you, are you still, after the weekend, 16 teams left in the tournament, including Michigan State? I'm into it. I know the games are competitive, but I think at least paying attention to it, having Michigan and Michigan State jockeying for position, the shit talking, at least being able to invest in a couple teams made it a little bit more interesting to invest in. I know what people are saying. There's not a lot of Cinderellas, not a lot of great competitive games, but whenever you have teams competing and you have, a collection of blue bloods that are still in it, I still think it makes it worthwhile to still pay attention a little bit to the tournament. Maybe not as passionate as we once were, but I still think there's some intrigue.
Look, I was a guy who was not really into this whole tournament at all. I didn't do any brackets. I don't remember last year if we did the DSP tournament bracket thing. I don't know if it's been done for a couple of years now or not. The deal. Everything kind of starts to run together. But I didn't do one. I was not invested. And then I found myself, as this tournament was going on, I started to get more and more involved. I started to get more and more intrigued in these teams. I started to follow things a little bit more closely. So I can tell you right now, with where I'm at, I'm very engaged in what's going on. I am eating it all up. Yes, there's not a lot of Cinderellas, which does kind of take away from that expectation that we have with the tournament. But what I can tell you is having both Michigan and Michigan State in the tournament has definitely added to my enjoyment and has definitely added to me wanting to take more games in. I'll give you an example. Michigan was playing this past weekend. Games going on. It's getting down to crunch time. My daughter wakes up and she's crying. And my wife's in the middle of doing things that she has to do to feed our baby. So she's breast pumping. And I'm like, damn it, she's got to cry now? Like, she's got to have her little freak out moment now? Like, what's going on? My wife's like, do you want me to go take care of it? I was like, no. I'll be the dad. I'll go take care of it. But it's just like right now? She's got to wake up and she's got to be upset right now? So it's like, obviously want to be a good dad. I try to be a good dad, but I really wanted to take in the basketball game. I really wanted to watch Michigan play. And I found myself at that little bit of a crossroads where it's like, you know what you got to go do, but you don't want to go do what you got to go do. So I'm engaged. I'm into it. Again, like I said, lack of Cinderellas kind of hurt some of the storylines from it. But all that being said, having two teams, both Michigan and Michigan State in it, I think helps add to the spice that is this tournament. And I think for me, I expected and I wanted Michigan to get to the Sweet 16. I think at this point for me, they're playing with house money. And I don't necessarily expect them to go too much further than this, right? Like, Auburn's going to be a really good team. It's going to be hard for them to beat Auburn. Auburn is incredibly long. They are a very athletic team. They do a lot of things really, really well. You said last week that Michigan State, your expectation was basically surviving that first weekend, getting into the Sweet 16, and after that, you didn't really care. Does that still hold true for you? Is yes. Michigan and Michigan State still playing with house money in your estimation, and it's whatever's whatever? If they get to the Elite Eight, they get to the Final Four, It's all bonus.
Yeah, it feels like it's a bonus, right? It feels like, here's the deal. Michigan and Michigan State, it feels like I think the expectations were not set that high. So I think people just wanted them to get out of that opening weekend. They feel like, okay, Michigan, Michigan State are probably among the best 16 teams. Now, would I like Michigan State to beat Ole Miss? Yes. And I do think that in my estimation that if you just look at it now, most people would believe that they could probably advance to the Elite Eight and probably face Auburn and lose. I think that's where expectations kind of, are for this team. Nobody kind of thinks that they're in the class with Florida, Houston, Auburn, Duke. They don't think that, with the way in which teams win in college basketball, when you don't shoot the 3-point basket that well, yeah, you can play defense. That's one approach. But I kind of always felt like the Spartans were one more good, solid weapon away that you can count on, which is crazy that they were able to advance with Jace Richardson not playing well at all. He had one of his worst games as a Spartan, and so you have to rely on others, and that's what you need to do in a tournament. So yeah, I think
isn't that what the tournament kind of brings out? It brings out that secondary cast of guys you didn't expect to perform, and guys who go out there and actually can take over a game for you, and that's the one thing that's been awesome about this tournament.
Yeah, and it's great because Auburn has NBA guards, so it's going to be interesting to see if Michigan advances. People will say, okay, do you want them do you want Michigan to play Michigan State? And I'm like, hell yes, I do, because the Spartans went 2-0. I think that, it's an ultimate gamble because Michigan's playing better and they're a basketball team that has confidence. They can now probably believe that they could stand toe-to-toe with the Spartans. But I think at that level, to get to the Final Four, that would be sick. It would be the biggest. I was shocked to hear people's perception saying they didn't care. They don't want to see Michigan State play because they've already won twice. I always look at it like the Michigan State game is the height of passion in sports. Like, that's the game you don't want to lose. Because if they lose, I'm going to get 50 texts. Ha ha, look at you, Spartan clown. Ha ha, you're an idiot. You've always been a loser. You're a jinx. You're the reason they suck. It hurts the most. So, but then on the flip side, I got to watch the greatest moments in sports history when Michigan State, played Jim Harbaugh's first game at the Big House, trouble with the snap. I literally was a single party of one spinning like a top screaming in a house full of people that were like with their jaw agape. It was the best moment. So rivalries, you always want to play. I want to play Michigan every day that ends in Y and twice on Sunday. It's great because then if you do advance, could you imagine Michigan State winning the region on Sunday against Michigan? That would be I don't care. I think what sports fans, it's weird is that I don't care if Michigan ever respects Michigan State. I don't care what level of acknowledgement. I know what it is. You go on vacation, if you're in Florida, if you're in Texas, you're in overseas, you go to the Middle East, you're going to find somebody wearing the Block M. They're just everywhere, like ants. You guys are like ants everywhere all across this country, donning your M everywhere I go. You're like, God damn, I can't escape you guys. But then it's funny because now Spartan fans have been able to puff their chest out a little bit. The decade that we got of success against Michigan was great. Look, we all understand the deal. Michigan is a global monster, but there are opportunities for Michigan State to be toe-to-toe, and it's been in basketball. Michigan State is the last Big Ten team to win the title, and I got to experience that. So I want to play Michigan all day, every day, and that's the rule. Look, you can't be scared of losing. It happens. The best moment was 4 years ago. I think I was in the press box at Michigan State, and it was Aiden Hutchinson. It was, Kenneth doing his thing, and it was just like Kenneth Walker was an OG, and there was some controversy, and then all of a sudden Kenneth Walker is just running all over Michigan in the second half, and everybody was at halftime, bitching and complaining and talking about Michigan, and they should be up by more, and then the ability to win, to be at Spartan Stadium when that happened was amazing. It was a great experience all the way around to be a part of, and then at the other side too, I sat in the Big House with Bobby Williams when Michigan State scored 3 points, freezing my ass off, going, what the hell is this hard bench doing to me? This is uncomfortable. And to see the Spartans score the first 3 points and then to lose by a whopping massive amount, was disheartening. But that's what sports is. You talk shit with your friends. You have a rivalry. I want to see this matchup. Am I wrong? I think that's crazy. I couldn't believe the sentiment that some people were spewing, saying it's irrelevant. It's never irrelevant. Michigan, I don't care what Michigan views the rivalry as. I don't care if Michigan views Michigan State as a peasant. It spawned the greatest run of Spartan sports ever. We don't get success unless Mike Hart calls us little brother. Like, that's what was needed. Like, you need that. You don't get success unless someone says you're nothing. You know, Detroit Sports Podcast doesn't last as long if people didn't say, you guys are the internet scum of the earth. You don't belong. And I'm like, we don't belong? Oh, I'll show you what we can do. I'm going to tell you what we do. And I'm going to bring all my friends along with you and tell everybody that podcasts are real media. Everyone's going to do it. Now the athletes figured it out. Now everybody figured out the joy of communication. And I think Michigan State needs Michigan, and I don't care what Michigan thinks about Michigan State. We are our own little community of Spartans fighting against the big bad Goliath cheaters in Michigan. And it's great to be able to, and Cubs, breaking news, I think Matt Weiss just checked in on my computer just now. It's beeping. I think he's checking in right now to see my search history, and there's a lot of stars and hearts. I think he's doing some things he's not supposed to be doing on my computer, because there's a lot of hearts, thumbs up. I'm like, I got to erase my search history because I think he's really impressed by what I'm doing here. But I'll let it slide. I'm not gonna press charges against him for sneaking into my computer. My search history is elite. But I want to play Michigan anytime, and it would be the ultimate 24 hours of shit talking that Friday. I can't wait to. I do want Auburn clearly to curb stomp Michigan, but in the end, if they're able to win and it's Michigan State, oh my God, those 24 hours are going to be fun. Everywhere they talk about it.
It's win-win for MSU fans.
Yeah.
As a Michigan fan, I don't want to see Michigan State again. Michigan State has trounced Michigan every time that they've played them in the regular season. Yeah, it's a chance to get things right, and yeah, I'm sure Michigan is riding a little bit higher now than they were earlier this season because they've been playing some of their best basketball. But Michigan State does whatever it takes to kind of bottle up Michigan and frustrate them and get them to a point where they can't execute shots, they can't move the ball around, they can't get inside and get the rebounds that they need. So I, as a Michigan fan, do not want to see MSU in the Elite Eight. Give me anybody else. I'll take anybody else. It doesn't matter. If we got to play Auburn twice, I'll play Auburn twice. I don't care. But I don't want to see them because I feel like they create such problems and create such headaches for Michigan. I would go with what's behind door number 2, the great unknown, than facing Michigan State for the third time. And look, it is difficult to beat a team 3 times in one season. These two teams know each other incredibly well. You would think Dusty May would have a game plan already drawn up in case they are able to advance to the Elite Eight and take on MSU. But all that being said, I don't want to see you because you just make life a living hell. You make things incredibly difficult for the Michigan Wolverines on the basketball court. So I don't want to see them. I know when Michigan State plays Michigan, there's a bigger chip that's on the shoulder for all the things that you just said, right? You just laid it out there. I feel like every MSU fan and every MSU player feels that way. They feel for some reason they need to beat Michigan to feel validated. They feel like they are less than. It's like they compare themselves to Michigan, and for some reason they always feel like they're number 2. Not necessarily the case. In basketball, MSU has been number 1 forever. That's why when Michigan beats MSU, it's a big freaking deal. I just don't know if Michigan can beat MSU, and this tournament's a big freaking deal. So I don't necessarily want to see MSU in the Elite Eight. But look, there's a lot of work that has to be done before both Michigan and MSU can meet each other in the Elite Eight. What do you think Michigan and Michigan State have to do to get by? Michigan has to get by Auburn. MSU's got to get by Ole Miss. What do you think these two programs have to do to meet up and have that chance to face each other in the Elite Eight for the opportunity to go on to the Final Four?
Yeah, for Michigan State, clearly, you know, you look at the way the team is constructed. You want to have Jace Richardson involved. You want to have that perimeter shooting. You want to have look, first and foremost, start with defense. You make sure you force those turnovers. You make sure you clog the middle. Transition basketball, you make sure that, you know, you don't let the teams run out and really get hot by being able to, perimeter defense has been stellar. You want to be able to move the football spacing. Move the basketball. The one thing that the Spartans really, you saw, last weekend was they have this propensity at times to just get over-reliant on their jump shooting. They need to go inside a little bit more, get the easier basket. It's like, I think that sometimes the transition game is not as fluid as you would like, but there are guys that can step up and make shots to kind of unclog things. So it's one of those deals where I do think that Ole Miss is going to struggle. I think with preparation, that just gives Tom Izzo the ample opportunity to get it going. Now, to get to the next step, if it's against Auburn, I just don't think the Spartans have enough scoring across the board. Like, you're going to need Jace Richardson to get over the hump. In these kind of games, you need, you're not going to rely on a fiddler to get to where you're going, a Cohen Carr. You're not going to rely on Atkins to beat Auburn. What you got to do is play your best. I mean, it's just simple stuff. Play your best basketball and be able to limit the offensive lulls and turnovers. Because with Michigan State, it's just always the same. When they get into the scoring lulls, and just for some reason, they go cold. And it's crazy. It's one of those deals where you just, if they just had really one more dude that could get his own shot and create, then you don't have to rely on the team framework sometimes. But hey, team basketball is always key. It's going to be tough. But here's the thing with Michigan, that's why I think people undersold them, is they got guys that can get hot. Like, you got Donaldson, you got the inside game with Golden, you had the guy that just saved the day with 28 points. That was crazy to see a guy with less than 30% average shooting just comes out and carries the team in a spot where you're like, wow, that's perfect timing. So I think they got a shot. They got a shot against Auburn, but I think in the end there's too many NBA caliber players for Auburn, and it'll be a good one. This one could be the game of the tournament. And if you're in it, if you're within, I'll say this. If Michigan is within 5 with 5 minutes left, your odds are better than most people think. If you're if you're in the mix, they're just a team that can hang around. If you're in the mix with 5 minutes left, it would not surprise me to see Michigan win because they're gritty. They have the kind of confidence now that they can ball, and they peaked at the right time. So I love the opportunity. It's a bigger chance than people think that Michigan could play Michigan State. But I'm hoping that Michigan State can live up to their end of the bargain and get to the Elite Eight, because it would be a great regional final to see Michigan State. It would be lovely.
Yeah, here's the thing. If Michigan can continue to play what they put on tape, the final 10 minutes against Texas A&M last week, if they can do that, they have a chance to stand in there and go blow for blow with Auburn. All right? Auburn, like I said, incredibly long. They do a lot of things very, very well. They've got exceptional they've got an exceptional forward, and they've got really good guard play. Look, this is a Bruce Pearl coach team. They're going to move the ball around a lot. They're going to take threes. This is a team that can score what seems like at will. So if Michigan can withstand some of those flurries, play some solid defense, and then take advantage on the other end. I think Michigan does have to slow it down a little bit, though. You don't want to give Auburn possessions. You want to steal possessions from them. So slow it down. Get in your sets. Make your shots. And then transition back onto the defense. Get the ball back, and then do the same thing over and over. You really want to slow down the pace of play. I think if Michigan is trying to run and gun with Auburn, it's going to be a very long day for them. I just don't think they have the offensive talent to keep up with them. But all that being said, if Auburn shows up and plays a B- C game, and Michigan comes out there and plays an A game, I think this game is going to be incredibly close at the very, very end. And I think Michigan has a good chance to steal one and then get into that Elite Eight, where Michigan State, I think, will have a little bit of an easier time. Don't sleep on Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a good team, right? They've got an exceptional player in Pagula who is going to go to the NBA. This is going to be an NBA guard. Pagula has the ability to just take over a game. So if Michigan State can frustrate him and get him out of his comfort zone, force him to jack up a couple of bad shots, get him to turn the ball over a little bit and really shut him down, I think it puts more pressure on other guys on that team. I think Michigan State can come away with the win. I think Michigan State has an incredible chance to get to that Elite Eight. I think Michigan's chances are a little bit slimmer, very similar to what you said. If they can somehow find a way to have this game close down the stretch in the final 5 minutes, and they can get guys to execute at the free throw line, they have the ability to get into that Elite Eight, and then we could possibly see that matchup. Either way you cut it, I think both teams playing with house money. I think this has been a very good season for both teams. Remember, going back to the preseason, this was supposed to be the 4th and 5th team in the Big Ten. This is the number 1 and the number 2 team coming out of the Big Ten, and they have a chance to play for a Final Four spot if they're able to survive this next set of games and get into the Elite Eight and then possibly take on each other. So really, really good stuff for both these teams, for both of our programs that we root for. I think it's going to make for a really, really fun Friday when they end up taking the court and start to play. Let's shift gears though, because before Friday we've got Thursday, and Thursday the MLB season kicks off, and your Detroit Tigers are opening up the year playing the Los Angeles Dodgers in LA. And when you look at this team, there's been a lot of consternation. There's been a lot of aggravation. There's been a lot of upset Tiger fans because of some of the moves, lack of moves. Then you add in some of the changing of Comerica Park, and we can get into that if you'd like. But with the opening day roster that the Tigers are rolling out, do you feel like this team has a ceiling, unlike last year's team? Last year's team felt like it had a ceiling going into it, but they were able to break through, and they were able to really get 1 out in 2 innings away from playing in the ALCS. They went on a very magical run. It was short, but it was magical. What they did down the stretch of the regular season to get into the playoffs and then make the noise that they made in the playoffs, going into this year, expectations were very, very high. We thought the Tigers were going to be big-time buyers in the offseason. We thought the Tigers were going to really build around Tarek Skubal. You thought that the Tigers were going to add some high-priced free agents that could field and could bat, and it really doesn't feel like any of that happened. It felt like they kind of brought back a guy in Flaherty, and then they kind of swung and missed on some of the bigger name free agents, and it feels like going into this opening game of the season, they've got a lot of holes on their roster, and it feels like this team is going to struggle, at least to get out of the gates. What are your thoughts on how this team is constructed as we head into this opening series of the Major League season?
Yeah, it's a lot of trust that needs to be involved, right? Like, did the Tigers do enough? It kind of just really has some similar parallels to the Lions. Felt like they could have did a couple more pieces to the offense, and it's hard to have confidence when Javier Baez is still in the mix, and now he's going to potentially be playing third base, and it looks like an experiment. You got an unfortunate injury situation. So let's look at it just 360-degree view. I think once last year hit, you'd say, okay, that was the sign to kind of invest. Like, that was the goal moment. Like, okay, we showed you, we did. We outkicked our coverage. Help us out. And they went all in on a guy that potentially is going to spurn you in Alex Bregman. I don't even think that was enough. Even if you got Bregman, I think the Guardians are solid. The division that the Tigers are in is really solid. It's you realize, okay, there's opportunities that you got to face to get over the hump again against a team that beat you. I just don't think the confidence is there. The team did enough, and it's like one of those things where you're like, okay, can this team get back to the postseason? Yeah. Can they compete to win it all against some good quality opponents? Probably not. You realize, okay, it's a good litmus test to start the year against the Dodgers, but they got like double what you're spending. So I do think they got a ceiling. I think it has a chance to be a playoff team. And here's what's starting to happen, I think. And maybe it can parallel life too. Everybody gets gritty and they work hard, and they start off their career making $15,000 and they want to grind, and you like the grind. You like it. But then as you get better in life, the grind is hard. Like, to be gritty day after day after day is hard. Like, you just want someone to say, hey, we like you. Here's your talent. Here's a bunch of money. Do what you do. We like you. You want to grind a little bit less. You know what I mean? You don't want to have to scratch and claw with defense and pitching. You want to have a guy that can hit you 45 home runs and maybe gets hot at the right time and carries you a little bit. And so I think psychologically, Detroit fans are tired of going to work and gritty. It's nice. It reminds us of what we all been through. But fuck, man, grinding is hard. Like, it's hard. Like, you want someone to say, hey, you're good. And so, the grind is a little bit easier for us here at the podcast. People reach out to us for interviews and they like us. And but that first 4 or 5 years where you're just like getting ignored, it's tough, you know? And I'll give you an example. The Tigers on Wednesday had a event and it was for the tasting to see the new seats and all that stuff. DSP got invited, but cause you're gonna laugh. You know how the invite was sent to me? It was, John, I'm so sorry. We forgot to invite you. We would like to invite you at Monday at 3:00 for a Wednesday event. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Thank you for the invite. We would like to always be included, but you got to kind of give me some more notice than 24 hours. So because I said to them, you know, we got people covering the NCAA and football and spring football and other stuff. So that kind of notice is not fun, but you're like, okay, it happens. You'd like for just them to send me the email 2 weeks like everybody else, but I get it. You don't take it personally, but you don't forget it either. You don't want that. You don't want to have to grind or have to reach out like, hey, you guys invited me last year. Where's the invite? Like, I totally forgot. I just was like, I knew it was coming. I was hoping it'd be next week or the week after, but you don't want to grind. You want you want to be able to get over the hump and be better with a little bit less effort. And I think that's where the Lions are at. The Red Wings, they're gritty, but they just need a little bit more flair of talent. And developing and drafting your own is fun, but there is a little bit of fun in getting some guys that are proven that can help you. And I just think that fans want more. So I'm not unexcited, I'd say. I'm not like disappointed. I feel like this team, there's still buzz to pay attention to, but I think what we got to do fairly, cuz, is to taper our expectations. It's not a World Series team. Mm-hmm. It's basically year 2 of a 4 or 5 year rebuild. Would we like it to be year 4? Yes. Last year was an anomaly. Maybe you take a step back. I don't know if you remember the 2007 team where they made the playoffs and had an improbable run after the World Series, but they just never really kind of after that got there. I know people have that fear.
See, I'm glad you brought that up because that is what I see this team being. I see this team being that 2007 team where 2006 was magical, right?
Yes.
They got into the playoffs. They got to the World Series. They did a whole lot of things right. And it really felt like they missed an opportunity to win a World Series in 2006. 2007, you come back and expectations are through the roof. Now, that 2007 team went out. They made some moves. They brought in Gary Sheffield. Justin Verlander was a full-time member of that roster. And you were like, okay, let's go. They're going to hit the ground running. And they really never seemed to really get out of the tracks. They ended up finishing second in the division. They missed out on the playoffs. They kind of went into a bit of a backward slide. The year after that, they go out, they trade for Miguel Cabrera, get Miguel Cabrera in here. And it really wasn't until I think it was 2012 that they were able to make it back to the playoffs, and they were able to then go and try to chase for another World Series. But to me, this team didn't do nearly as much as that 2007 team did. And they couldn't get out of the blocks. And now this Tigers team is being besieged with injuries. We got an update on Parker Meadows. He sounds like he's going to be out. He's going to miss basically the first third of the season. And that's a dude who you were counting for in the outfield because of his defensive play. And, I mean, really, you look out in the outfield, it's Riley Green on a Vespa, and who else? There's nobody else out there to help him. And then you go to the infield. I mean, we're talking about playing Javi Baez at third base. Like, we're talking about putting a guy who's been a butcher in the field, and the guy can't swing at the plate, and you're trying to get meaningful time out of him at third base. I just don't think this team's done enough. You've got a new first baseman, a guy who is working into a position. You got Gleyber Torres, who, look, depending on who you talk to and who you believe, it could be good, it could be bad. I don't like the signing myself. The 1 year part of it I think is good, but I don't like him as a player. And then I'm not 100% sure what they're going to end up doing with shortstop, and then again with Javi Baez, and it feels like it's going to be kind of every day you're going to put the dice into the Yahtzee cup, you're going to shake it up, roll it, and you're going to be like, okay, cool. The dice say Javi's playing shortstop today. All right, put him back in the cup, shake him up. Whoever's playing third, all right, cool. Put them in the cup, shake them up, throw them, and that's how you're going to put your starting lineups together for your fielding. And it does not look good. the way this roster has been constructed, it is very pitcher dominant. And if your pitchers have a bad day, it's going to be a very long day. You're going to see weird scores like 11-2, 11-1, 10-3. And it's going to be hard for the Tigers to win games when you're giving up 10 runs because the pitcher had a bad outing, had an off day. Speaking of Javi Baez.
But I want to ask you, though, I think real fast, I think what drives us, you and I, is we're always looking at the standard of how close are our teams to winning it all. And that's what winners do, is look at how it's like, you know, there are people that, you know, we could look at golf, poker, or any competitive individual sport. There are people that are great being, you know, like a Damon in golf. Somebody's got to be the 70th best golfer in the world, but there are people that just have that competitiveness where you're first or last. And I think that's where a lot of Detroit fans are in it. They have expectations that teams take jumps. And I think that a lot of articles in the NFL really help keep things in perspective. That's why I'm not angry, because there's a contender bucket, there's a pretender bucket, and then there's like a middle of the road bucket where, okay, they could get hot, they could make it, but it's a development. And so that's where I'm at. I'm thinking if you guys just lower your expectations and just kind of follow the development. I've said this before with the Wings and Pistons too. Just don't focus on the team wins. Focus on the development of a Colt Keith. Focus on the development of your pitchers in Jackson Jobe and Casey Mize. Where are they at in their development? Riley Green, can he take the next step? Can you get anything out of Spencer Torkelson? They're not in the contender bucket. And it sucks to say, but if you say, you know what, it's just year 2 and not year 20 of a decade-long effort to get back to relevancy, they are a team with a good manager, with an analytical system that will put them in places to succeed, but they have anchors and they have warts, and they're trying to shed those warts in the most respectful way possible given the parameters of what they're dealing with the fact that there's a budget. So they're not contenders, and I think once you accept it and you say they're not contenders, they are not going to win the World Series, just focus on the development and seeing, you know, where they can kind of patch up the deficiencies. The deficiencies are going to be on the defense, clearly. You got Javi Baez.
And at the plate.
Third base. Yeah, and at the plate. And you have deficiencies. The biggest deficiency now, you're not going to be without Parker Meadows. You're not going to have really, I think, a lot of production out of Javi Baez. Can they overcome that early for the first couple months, or how impactful do you think the loss of Meadows is going to be to this team, and knowing that Javi is just going to be a disaster in the infield and probably not give you 200 even hitting? So you got to get over that early stuff, but I think that's the warts. But I think the stuff that we can talk about that's great is that pitching staff, I think, will keep you in some 2-1 games. So to me, you know, to summarize it, I think it's exactly what we're talking about is a 500 team. I think it's a 81 to 85 win team, and you're able to have success just by the development of some of the guys to get experience. I don't think they're world beaters. I think 81 to 85 is their ceiling. That 83.5 number is perfect. As the win total, it sparks debate, but it's kind of fun to talk about. Where are you at with it? Can they hide the warts? And can you taper expectations, or does that ruin it going to the year when you know you're not among the big dogs?
I don't think they can hide it. Here's the thing. Yeah. When you look up and down this roster, like I was saying, the outfield is going to basically be constructed of Riley Green, and they're hoping to play him in left field to kind of preserve him because he keeps getting hurt, he keeps breaking down, and they need him, right? He's a good bat. He's one of the few good bats this roster has. So what happens when he does get hurt? You're already dealing with injuries in that outfield. And then you look at the infield, you didn't add anything to that infield. Like, I don't think Gleyber Torres is this monster addition. You know, like, you don't have, in my estimation, you don't have that legitimate power bat. You don't have that 1-2 punch on the infield there that's going to help you to get runs home and help you scrap out games. Again, it's going to be a team that is going to be heavily reliant on its pitching staff. Yes, you've got a catcher in Jake Rogers who's very good, and he does a fantastic job of calling games and framing pitches. But that can only get you so far. And going into the year, you're limping, right? So what happens when the season takes over and you start dealing with injuries? Like, are we still sure that Jack Flaherty's going to be okay? He's going to be able to make it through the entire season? This was a guy who was getting back injections last year. This was a guy who was supposed to be traded to the Yankees And the Yankees were like, yeah, no, the medicals didn't come back clean. Now the Dodgers at the last second took him, and then you were able to get him back, and we all kind of cheer it because he was productive for you. But realistically, you've got weak links all over this roster, and you're trying to count on everybody playing exceptional, and you're counting on everybody taking a step forward from what you did last year. Let's just go back and look at what you did do last year. The reason that you were able to win games down the stretch, and the reason that you were able to win a playoff series, the reason that you were able to be dangerous in the postseason was because you had to do this weird stuff with your pitching staff. Like, you weren't giving anybody any updates and any tips on your pitching staff until the card came out, generally 2 hours before the game. So, are you going to do that? Your own manager, the guy who came up with that ability to mix and match and roll different guys out and play different guys differently, he even said this isn't sustainable. Like, it's not sustainable for a 162-game season. Yes, it worked down the stretch. Yes, it helped get you into the playoffs. And yes, it helped win you a playoff series. But realistically, can you do it for a whole year? The manager has said no. So I think that's a pretty smart guy. When I look at that Tigers organization, from the top down, he's the only guy I like. I hate the owner. I think the owner's an asshat in Chris Ilitch. I don't like the general manager in Scott Harris. I think he's an asshat, and I think he's an arrogant prick. And then when you look at the manager of the team, he's the only one that I like. He's the only one who I think gets it. He's the only one who I think understands what is going on day in, day out. And he is tasked with the hardest job of trying to win more than 83 games. And I don't think they do it. I just don't think you're going to be able to duplicate the magic that you had last year. I don't think you have the fielding ability to cover up some of the bad games that pitchers are going to have, because they will have bad games. And I don't think you have the caliber of players on this roster that can make up for injuries that are going to occur during the season, injuries that you're limping into the season with. And I think you are putting a ton on a Cy Young winning young pitcher in Tarek Skubal to say, hey, go out and duplicate and maybe do better than you did last year. I don't know if Tarek Skubal can return and give you another Cy Young type of performance. Like, that's a lot to ask for out of a young kid. I don't know if you get that. And I don't know if you've done enough to insulate him in that rotation. Because really, when you look at it, it's him. You're hoping for some production out of Flaherty. What is Casey Mize going to give you? What has Casey Mize ever given you? The answer is nothing. So now you're counting on Casey Mize to come in and be a reliable member of this staff. You're counting on Job to come up. And look, he's going to be on a pitch count, and he's going to be limited. So what are you expecting from him? So then you need to turn it over to your bullpen. And look, I think A.J. Hinch has done a fantastic job managing that bullpen. Last year he did an incredible job. Are you going to be able to get the same this year? I don't know. I don't think so. I think what happened last year was just, it was the only way you can describe it. It was magical. And I don't know if counting on it to be duplicated is, one, smart. I think it's dumb. And two, I don't know if it's doable. I think this team comes, if you're going to take the over-under on 83.5 games, I think your best bet is to go under. I do not think this team wins more than 83 games. I don't think this team makes the playoffs. Look, you are one injury away from Tarek Skubal from this thing looking like it might be a AAA roster. So,
okay,
good luck with that.
Okay, so I'll ask you this. You know, as we approach the season, you're going under. If that's the case, wouldn't it behoove then to have the conversation again, you know, and we'll revisit it quite often, that if that's the way it goes, if it's a middling team, wouldn't it behoove you really to just trade Tarek Skubal? You got a Cy Young winner. You get 5 players, some prospects, and opportunities to get young guys. 5 chances at some developmental prospects that you can win with and make the home run trade. Because if that's the way it goes, it just goes back to what we argued before. The timeline doesn't match up, you know, with a pitcher, and right. you can't cash out when your maximum value is now. This is the max value. Where everybody expects him to dominate, be good again, and so based on what you're saying, you're down the road of sell. that they cannot go down this road again of being a team. They got to set up the future, because if you don't, you're not going to pay this guy $400 million. Nobody's going to pay that. Yep. So you got him cheap this year. That's good, but you still get the opportunity to trade one of the. You have a chance for a blockbuster. It sounds like what you're saying is the goal this year is to hope that Tariq Skubal is a bad man one more time, and you get 4 or 5 guys that can potentially turn your organization around for the next 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the goal, it sounds like, for you.
Well, here's the thing, right? In your hypothetical, if you were to come to me and tell me, look, these are all going to be top-level prospects, and you were to get a guy who is going to be on your roster and be able to provide you with something, I would tell you, yeah, sell him. Because, look, this is where I'm at. I think Chris Ilitch is a cheap owner. I think Chris Ilitch is a bad owner. I don't think Chris Ilitch is going to sign Tariq Skubal. I think he's going to exhaust going to arbitration with him. I think he's going to exhaust every route he has to keep him underneath whatever it is to extend him. I think there is no future for Tariq Skubal in Detroit. And it's because the general manager thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and the owner does not want to open up the checkbook. And I think they're trying to do this weird little Moneyball situation where they're trying to get guys and put them in different roles. And like I said, I really feel like they're adding a lot to A.J. Hinch's plate. And yes, he's an incredible manager. I think A.J. Hinch is a top 5 manager in the league. I think you have probably a bottom 3 owner in the league, and I think you've got an idiot as a general manager. And again, it's more of a personal thing. It's not what he does is necessarily bad. I just think he's an arrogant asshole. That's all. But that being said, yeah, I'm on board with trading Skubal because I don't see a future with him. And like we talked about last year, timeline's not going to work out. You've got all these young guys that you don't want to block, as Scott Harris says. And so what you're doing is you're filling in with basically pylons in orange barrels on different parts of the base paths to play positional roles, right? Like, you should have went out and got yourself a third baseman this year, whether it was by trade or whether it was by free agency. You put all your eggs in one basket, and that basket got knocked off the table. So now what are we doing? We're trying to put a guy who is an absolute butcher in the field and a guy who can't swing a baseball bat at third base. He doesn't play that position. That's not his role. That's not his job. You're expecting him to be good? I'm expecting him to make costly mistakes that are going to cost you runs and cost you games. And if you fall behind early, I don't know if you're able to claw your way out like you did last year. And that's kind of where this whole conversation goes back. I don't think this team is as good as it was last year. Because what happened last year was so far out of left field. It legit was like angels in the outfield type of shit. Like, it should not have happened, but somehow you were able to get it to happen, and you were able to get to the playoffs, and you were able to win a series. Yeah,
but sometimes, I guess, to leave it on a positive note, sometimes rebuilds are not linear, where they go, 80 wins, 85 wins, 94 wins, World Series champion. Sometimes you infuse a team with as much talent as possible. You wait until some opportunities present themselves, aka Javi's contract runs out, and you just wait until the moment's right, and then you strike and you get those. I think Detroit fans are just anxious because all the rebuilds have taken this incrementally small approach. And we're all in the mindset of take some calculated risks to kind of jumpstart a step. And it can be done. But I like what Scott Harris is doing in regards to some aspects. But yeah, there are some things as well that you would say you could have had a backup plan that was better than just kind of walking away from Alex Bregman and losing the battle without much to speak for it. So let's find out how this team goes. It's a wild ride. Yeah, early on the expectations are low, but sometimes you get the greatest rewards when you get a group of guys that many people write off. And you never know. Maybe Javi Baez's back flares up at just the right time in July, and you you have the situation where maybe you can get another run. Look, you got a good manager. You have a pitching staff that will keep you in games. I think that you're going to have to try to overcome some warts early on, and the start will be key. Tough start against the Dodgers, but I'm hoping that the very least, it sucks. I know people are bummed out about Comerica and the sign and all that kind of stuff, look, no one's forcing you to go to Comerica. It's not the greatest stadium, ballpark, but it does enough if you want to go out for an evening. If you can get a cheap ticket and you can get out there, it's serviceable enough. Does it have all the bells and whistles? No. Kind of starting to feel outdated already, but it has the classic baseball look. They're starting to put a little bit more, but unfortunately it's gonna, everything more that you want is going to cost you out your ass. So just go to a bar, enjoy the baseball team, try to find a way to watch it on a platform that can at least not buffer every 5 seconds. Let's see what this baseball team is. We understand factually we're starting off with low expectations and some disappointment, but let's see. They've shown us last year that they were able to overcome and create some good memories. Baseball is long. We've learned that too. It's a long 162 games, but I can't wait to see the opening series and then against the Yankees. That's a good early test to find out early on what this baseball team is about. And Adam and I will be here to give it to you guys directly and honestly what we think about the Detroit Tigers. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Thank you guys for your listening ear. We appreciate you guys making us a small part of the Detroit sports community. Thank you for ranking us in the top 100 podcasts locally. We slotted in there nicely in the top 10%. So that was really nice to see our name and to be honored locally from those that understand what we've done and where we placed ourselves. So that was really nice. Thank you for ranking us in the top 10%. That was really cool. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. If you've agreed or disagreed with anything that you've said, that Adam said or I said, let us know. And remember that the manager is not the guy with the aura. The aura resonates with the DOC. I should be the one. Did you not look at that guy, cuz, and say, that guy reminds me of John. That guy is awesome. My kids were laughing their ass off at this guy that just comes out of nowhere and calls himself the man with the aura getting the NIL deal. So we'll talk about all that fun stuff in the future, talking about the fun stuff that we saw from the tournament and the wild ass shit that's coming out online about some guy in his morning routine and the funny ass shit that people are doing online and trying to get away with. So we'll break it all down in the coming weeks as well as we sprinkle in some fun topics as well as we talk about Detroit sports. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I'm the man with the aura, John Doc Macaroon. Make sure you follow us for the next episode of Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
You fucking podcasters. I said don't let them in here.